In the summer of 2022, something strange happened in Rocky Mountain National Park. Rangers came across a hiker-esque boot sticking out of a scree field on an extremely remote and rarely traveled trail. It wasn't just any hiker's boot. It was that of famed thru-hiker Elara Miles. She had been missing for months. In fact, people had been searching for her since June, when she set out to become the first person to complete a solo thru-hike of the Continental Divide Trail in a single season. But this particular area of the trail was so hard to access that it took until November for park rangers to even find the boot. And once they did, they soon realized they might have finally solved the mystery of what happened to her. Because hidden inside the boot, they found a small package that had been carefully sealed shut with electrical tape and SD card. And as soon as they plugged it into their computer, they saw the last photos and videos she ever recorded. The first video was taken at the start of the hike in Glacier National Park in Montana. And though she was alone, her spirits were high. "I am officially starting the CDT, the Continental Divide Trail," she said excitedly. "In a few days, I'll be completely off the grid and out of cell phone range. La 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 la. So this may be the last video with cell service for a while. Very excited to be out here with absolutely nobody else for the first time in about 9 years." She takes a deep breath. "I'm so happy to be doing this. I know it's going to be really special." The Continental Divide Trail is one of the longest hiking trails in North America. It runs 3,100 miles from Canada all the way down to Mexico. And throughout its length, it passes through some of the most stunning and rugged wilderness in the United States, including Yellowstone, the Great Basin, the Wind River Range, and Rocky Mountain National Park. Elara had hiked parts of the trail before, but now she was determined to do the whole thing in one go, beginning on June 19th, 2022. By July, she was in Washington State. She'd passed through the park. She wrote to her friend Chris, "The trail has been nothing short of amazing. Absolutely wild how beautiful it all is." But then her updates started to become more infrequent. By August, her journal entries stopped entirely. Her last entry said, "The trail is hot, dry, and dusty." And it seems like she was losing hope of finishing the journey. When people don't check in after setting out on a thru-hike, it isn't uncommon for them to simply fall off the grid. It happens all the time. Sometimes it's because their supplies ran low, or they broke their leg and had to hobble to safety. Other times, it's because they decided to quit before they finished. But Elara was different. She was extremely experienced and well-prepared. She knew exactly what she was getting herself in for, and there was no reason to think she wouldn't make it. Still, over the next 2 months, her friends and family grew increasingly worried. They scoured her social media accounts, hoping for an update, but there was nothing. Finally, on October, Elara's brother, Adam, contacted the authorities and reported her missing. The park put out a statement, but because it had been so long since anyone had seen her, they didn't have much to go on. They couldn't even tell which part of the trail she was on. That's why it was such a shock when nearly 2 months later on November, rangers found her boot on an extremely remote section of the trail in Rocky Mountain National Park. The area is called the Lockvale Wilderness, and it's incredibly difficult to get to. There aren't even any roads nearby. As the crow flies, it's about a 2-hour hike to get there. But if you were to try to drive as close as possible and then walk the rest of the way, it would take nearly 8 hours just to cover the same distance. Because of this, the area receives very few visitors, and the trail is mostly used by bighorn sheep. So how did rangers happen to find Elara's boot there? Well, a local man named Mike Wong had been searching for her for weeks. He'd seen the park's request for help, and he wanted to do whatever he could to find her. So every weekend, he packed up his backpack and headed into the wilderness, combing through the rocks and tall grasses, calling her name. On November, his persistence paid off. As he rounded a bend in the trail, he saw a pair of hiking boots sticking out between 2 rocks. He immediately recognized them. Those were Elara's boots. Though they were covered in dirt and grime, the brand name was still visible. He quickly called the park and told them what he'd found. When the rangers arrived, they noted that the boot was untied and lying in an unnatural position, like it had been shoved under the rocks on purpose. The ranger who responded to the call, Kyle Patterson, said it was clear that this was not a recent boot. It was apparent by the vegetation growing through the laces and the amount of dirt and mud caked on the boots that it had been there for a while. And then he noticed something else. On the inner side of the boot, tucked away where no one could see it, was a small piece of plastic. At first, he thought it was just trash. But as he brushed it off, he realized it was an SD card. The Rangers weren't sure if it had anything to do with the investigation, but they brought the boot and the SD card back to their office. In hopes that they might find some answers, they plugged the SD card into their computer and opened the last file she had recorded. The date on the video was September. Nearly 2 months had passed since then, and in that time, Elara's spirit had visibly changed. She starts the video by acknowledging that she's been off the grid for a while. "Hey guys, I hope everyone is well. I haven't been able to post in a minute, but I wanted to let you know that I'm okay. I've just been having some serious trail magic lately." She shows off a bag full of candy and snacks that some kind hiker left for her on the trail. Then she explains that she's been moving slower than she expected because of the heat. She goes on to say, "I keep finding these little signs of human life, like the candy I found today. It keeps me going, knowing that there are people out there that are thinking of me." But as she speaks, the tone of her voice is eerily flat. She doesn't seem to be smiling or enjoying herself at all, and the scenery around her looks desolate and empty. She continues, "I feel like I've been walking through the desert for a year. All the little ups and downs are kind of blending together, and I miss green stuff. The lack of water really gets to me mentally. I can usually go a couple days without seeing another person. I look forward to those kinds of days. But this year it feels a little too lonely and I miss people." And that's when Kyle noticed something disturbing. In the background of the video, he saw something moving. At first, he thought it was just a bird or a squirrel. But as he watched, the object got closer and closer. It looked like a human. Whoever it is, they're walking right toward Elara, and as they approach, she becomes increasingly agitated. She asks, "What do you want?" And the person responds, "Hey." Elara turns and walks the other way. But as soon as she does, the person follows after her. This happened several times, and each time she would run off in the opposite direction, but the person always followed her. The more she tried to get away, the more agitated she became. Elara was clearly afraid of this person, Kyle said. It was pretty obvious that she didn't want to talk to him or engage with him at all. The entire video is riddled with these encounters. And though the person never gets close enough to make out his face, he seems to be following her relentlessly. At one point, Elara turns and screams at him, "Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone." That's when Kyle realized the video wasn't just a hiker's log. It was a distress signal. All those weeks ago when Elara disappeared, her worst fear had come true. Someone had been stalking her on the trail, and in this video, she was desperately trying to get away. But why? Who was this person? What did they want? Why did they hide her boot and SD card in the wilderness? Well, that question has a simple answer. The day after the video was filmed, Elara's body turned up in a shallow grave not far from where her boot was found. An autopsy revealed she had been strangled, though the killer has never been caught. The evidence suggests that she died on September, the same day she made that final video. Whatever had been chasing her on the trail finally caught up to her and ended her life. As for why they hid her body and buried it in the wilderness, we may never know for sure. But it seems like they wanted to make her disappearance as difficult to solve as possible. Adam believes that Elara knew her attacker, that she was stalked for hundreds of miles along the trail. And in her final moments, she fought for her life. After her death, the park issued a statement saying they were looking into whether there had been foul play, but they never released any further details. Some believe Elara's killer was a fellow hiker who developed a twisted obsession with her. Others think it was someone she met while staying at a hostel along the way. But ultimately, none of us will ever know for sure what happened to her or why. All we have are the videos she left behind, which show a woman who was truly passionate about what she was doing, even as she feared for her life. Before she set out on the hike, she posted a video montage of her training hikes with the caption, "The mountains are calling, and I must go." And though her journey ended tragically, the spirit of adventure and love of the outdoors that she exhibited throughout her videos is something that will continue to inspire hikers for years to come.